Bad news for Perez after Red Bull's statement. Red Bull's patience seems to be coming to an end, as although Horner has stated that Perez's seat is safe until the end of the 2024 season, recent statements prove to the contrary. It does really look like Sergio Perez's time in a Red Bull car might be coming to an end, and quite expectedly so, considering that this season has been way under the line of average for a driver in a car like the RB19. Could Perez be replaced as soon as next season, and if so, which driver is looking the most likely to replace him? As the 2023 season kicked off, it became evident that Verstappen and Perez would engage in a competitive fight in the initial races, which was primarily due to the nature of the street circuits, where Perez historically is very good. Indeed, the evidence supported this idea, as he secured victories in Jeddah and Baku. Heading into Miami, he trailed Verstappen by a mere 6 points in the championship race, and to further add to the drama, he clinched pole position in the race, while Verstappen started from the 9th spot. However, it was discouraging to witness Perez lose both the lead and the race in the early stages due to a clear performance deficit. Consequently, since the Miami race, we have not witnessed the 33-year-old driver shine as brightly, and in my opinion, this is where things went downhill for the Mexican driver. The only reason he retained his second position in the Drivers' Championship with a 30-point lead over Hamilton was because the competition beneath him was equally unpredictable and, in all honesty, bad. Having the best car certainly proved invaluable in quickly navigating through dangerous situations, but nonetheless, Red Bull was disappointed to see Perez miss out on 5 consecutive Q3 appearances and only secure a podium once during this period, in Austria. This, of course, fell short of Red Bull's expectations. It would fall short of any expectations, not to mention a team like Red Bull in the state they are in. Even in the words of Perez's father, Antonio, who confirmed that Perez was brought in as Red Bull's second driver, and it is clear he is not fulfilling that role effectively at the moment. While Perez holds the second spot in the championship, he was instrumental in Red Bull clinching the Constructors' Championship early in the season. However, considering Verstappen's exceptional lead of 107 points over the second-place Mercedes team, one might wonder if Red Bull even needs a second driver at this stage. Perez's inconsistency, coupled with the team's new leadership direction, raises questions about his future at Red Bull, especially in light of recent statements from Horner and Marko. The Qatar Grand Prix further highlighted Perez's inconsistency. During Friday's qualifying session, he failed to progress beyond Q2, missing out on yet another Q3 appearance, further compromising his race prospects. And to add insult to injury, he started the sprint race in P8 behind Hülkenberg, but was involved in a crash which demoted him to start from the pit lane. While finishing in P10 might be viewed as a commendable recovery after starting from the back, a comparison with Russell's performance, who endured a severe crash in Turn 1, underwent numerous pit stop adjustments and still managed to finish 4th, leaves no room for excuses for Perez's lackluster showing. Additionally, Perez received 2 5-second penalties for track limit violations, a stark contrast to Verstappen, who never crossed the white lines, underscoring the huge difference in their performances. Red Bull is gradually recognizing that Perez is becoming a liability, and this is evident when comparing the performances of McLaren, Ferrari and Mercedes drivers who, with similar cars, finish in close proximity. The gaps in the Drivers' Championship standings are not as pronounced as the disparity between Verstappen and Perez, and while no one anticipates Perez to contend with the 3-time world champion, given Verstappen's exceptional form, having a 209-point deficit to one's teammate is simply unacceptable, especially when a third-place driver, Hamilton, is only 30 points behind in the battle for second place in the Drivers' Championship. Red Bull advisor Dr. Helmut Marko has insisted that the Austrians do want to respect Sergio Perez's contract until the end of 2024, but has insisted that whether that happens or not is entirely down to the Mexicans' performances, and this has been recognized by team principal Christian Horner, who admitted that he must talk to Perez to understand what's going wrong. "I think we need to talk to him, Perez, to understand what happened," Horner said after the race. If Perez can stay ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the driver standings, not only would it be his highest ever finish, but it would also represent the first time ever that Red Bull have sat 1-2 in the championship. Having already wrapped up both the Constructors' and Drivers' Championships, the team are desperate for Perez to do just that, to really emphasize quite how dominant they have been in 2023. "Nothing has really fundamentally changed that much," Horner continued. He's got into a bit of a spiral and he needs to put the brakes on that, reset and use this period, the 2 weeks to come back in Austin, another sprint weekend, and really attack it, do the best he can, and extract the most out of himself. I think we really need to sit down with Checo because we know what he's capable of and he's not hitting that form at the moment. We desperately need him to find that form to keep this second place in the championship. Marko has insisted that the Mexican is too far behind Max Verstappen currently and shouldn't be in a position where he could lose second in the Drivers' Championship, something which could very well happen if Lewis Hamilton ends the season well, and he hopes that Perez will find his old strength again, so that'll be key to him remaining with Red Bull at least until his deal expires. The gap is simply too big at the moment because second place in the World Championship is also at risk now, he told ORF. In general, we want to implement the contractual situation which lasts until 2024, and that's entirely up to him now, Marko added. But then we have 3 relatively good drivers in AlphaTauri, Marko noted, referring to Yuki Tsunoda as well as Lawson and Ricciardo. Let's see how this develops further, but we assume that Checo will find his old strength again. Christian Horner has already labelled the Red Bull seat as a luxury problem, and I agree that it is. There is fierce rivalry for the coveted spot alongside Max Verstappen in the rocket ship, which is RB19. Initially, the Austrian team considered the possibility of bringing back Daniel Ricciardo to rejoin their ranks as a driver. Earlier in the year, the Australian was part of the Red Bull team, initially serving as their 3rd driver before making a move to AlphaTauri to replace Nick de Vries. However, Daniel's chances of stepping in for Checo have been cast into doubt due to his injury sustained during the Dutch Grand Prix. As a result, Christian Horner is now evaluating the potential of the other 2 AlphaTauri drivers, Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson. But are these 2 better than Ricciardo? I'm not so sure. It's important to understand that Red Bull do indeed want to make a move regarding Perez. However, up until now, Ricciardo appears to be the most practical choice, given the circumstances surrounding his acceptance of a role at AlphaTauri midway through the season. While there were a couple of alternative possibilities for him, like Haas and Williams, both of which offered more competitive environments than the Italian team, Ricciardo's aim is to conclude his career with Red Bull. The Austrian team ensured they presented him with a significant mission before affording him that luxury. Checo Perez had an extra 3 years at F1 thanks to Red Bull. Let's not forget that he was fired. He had a good career, which is something not lots of drivers can say, and he got the chance because he was available and Red Bull could use him at the time. We have now reached the point where he can no longer provide what the team requires from him, and we maybe have no idea what the future holds, but all signs lead to him losing his seat for next year, especially with McLaren resurging and Ferrari finding their balance and understanding of how things work in this era. Lando Norris has also been heavily linked with replacing Perez, but I don't think that will happen until at least 2025, since he already committed to the Papaya team, and besides, the way McLaren are performing right now, one would want to be in McLaren at least for now. Whether or not Perez will leave the team as soon as next season, only time will tell, but across the board, Perez's present performance fails to validate his position at Red Bull, and at this point, it appears he's spent all his justifications. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Perez will be sacked from Red Bull sooner than expected? Thank you for watching Racing Zone, and we will see you in the next video.